This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 122. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And welcome back, friends and family. Here we are. It's Monday again. Always love being with you every Monday to bring you some good news of Telemark and the like and what's going on in the Freeheel world, at least on our end. And we're about done here for the season here in the Northern Hemisphere, which means people are starting to probably think about snow down south. So, like I said before, I'm going to be running the podcast every week, as far as I can tell. I don't know, maybe I'll take a break at some point. It'd be kind of weird at this point, 122 episodes in. I don't know what I would do with myself. But I never want to rule it out. Maybe I'll take a little vacation or something. I don't even know who would fill in. I'd have to get like a stand-in. Like, I don't know how that would work, but maybe I'll make Telly Tay or Dosty do a podcast and I can take a break and go to somewhere cool and sit on a beach. You know, whatever you do when you're not skiing. I'm not sure what that is, but it's a possibility. So anyways, we're wrapping up. Really, the big news is this is the last week of the Freeheel Life shop. We're going to be wrapping up season number 7. I can't believe that it's been 7 years since I opened the doors here in South Salt Lake City, and here we are. So we're wrapping up year number 7. This Saturday is our last day. We've got any remaining stuff, which, you know, I don't want to say it's slim pickings, but it's, you know, there's some stuff left. Please take it off our hands so we don't have to carry it through the summer. That always helps us. People are always asking how they can help. Shop with us at freeheellife.com, especially this week, and get some good deals on some equipment. We'll be open tomorrow, Tuesday, noon until 7 p.m., Saturday, 10 a.m. until 7 p.m., and then that is a wrap, folks. We will be doing some limited email stuff with our customer service email, but I will tell you the week after, so Saturday we're going to close down, 7 p.m. will be the last time you'll see this crew at the shop. For that whole week after, everyone's going skiing. So we're going to put a little message on the customer service email, on the phone. We're letting the team off. The seasonal people are going to be taking off, doing whatever they're doing this summer. The full-timers are going to be taking a break before they come back for the summer. So super excited heading into the spring and summer with upcoming projects and whatnot. But yeah, so if you can't get a hold of us, we'll have it on the social media website, phone, email, all that, so you know what's going on. But there is, if there's some loose end that we need to tie up with you and you're out there and wondering what's going on, we will be around and looking at it, but it's going to start becoming more limited so we can work on projects for the next season, because that's how it goes. Lots of planning to do for the 2022-23 season. Woo! Those years are getting up there. It's crazy. Crazy. Super crazy. So I think today what I want to talk a little bit about is springtime. Obviously, we've got a couple more weeks of resort skiing available. There's backcountry skiing. I thought it might be a good time to kind of tap into some ideas for those that still have the ability to get on the hill. And before I do that, I want to say one thanks. If you follow me on social media, at Josh No Madsen, I posted a little something from this gentleman Dave from Bees on Skis, and he heard my voice on a couple podcasts back. I kind of had a cold. I still kind of have a little weird something. I don't know, kind of a little choked up, if you will. Anyways, he heard my voice and he makes honey, and it's called Bees on Skis. It's got this little the logos. It's a bee making a Telemark turn. So it's like 4 Telemark skiers that came together, learned how to beekeep, share resources, and he pulled like 400 pounds of honey with his wife out of their little operation. Anyways, I ended up with some of it. He sent Kate and I some of this, and it was really cool. So I just wanted to, Dave, if you're listening, because I know you're a podcast listener, thank you. The honey is amazing. And hopefully my voice will find a full recovery. But I just, all you out there, thank you so much for, taking time to do stuff like that and sending cool stuff. And he sent a really cool note about kind of these 4 telemarketers that came together to start doing this beekeeping stuff. So, which is something I'm kind of interested in. So, Dave, I need to, I got to track down that email that you sent in, because I think it'd be fun to have you on the podcast. So shoot me another email if you're hearing this, podcast@freeheellife.com. Let's talk beekeeping. I mean, people are like, what are you going to talk about in the summer? Let's talk about beekeeping, people. Talk about good stuff. So really appreciate getting that. And the voice is recovering thanks to some of that good local honey from the great state of Vermont. So back to springtime, though. What I wanted to do today, springtime's kind of a cool time for telemark skiing. I've always really enjoyed springtime. I think a lot of people probably do. There's kind of a limit to some people's threshold of how much skiing they want to do. Some people are infinitely, they just go forever. It was funny. I was talking to Taylor at the shop this week. I think he sent an email out, like, thanks for the season, or whatever, kind of like an ending, like, hey, we're not going to be here anymore type of email. And a bunch of people like chimed back into him like, it's not over yet, man. We're skiing like till August. So look, we know you guys are diehard. There's diehards out there. Some places there's not even skiing to be had anymore. We're lower elevations and snowmaking's not happening. Today was like 70 degrees here where I live, and man, it was warm. It felt it for the end of March. I mean, it felt warm. So, but with teleskiing in the spring, for me, this is like one of the golden times of the year. I mean, powder days, okay, yeah, everyone loves a powder day, which in Utah, March is traditionally one of our biggest snow cycle months of the year. February, March, you get a lot of good powder skiing. But what I like about spring skiing is the fact that the snow really starts to change, and you kind of have the opportunity to really get on softer snow, but in a different way. Once it softens up, it's a little mushy. I love that. It's like a nice little slushy day, not too slushy. I'm not talking like so far at the end of wherever your season is that you're like troughing out your turns, like it's like a foot deep slush. Yeah, I mean, that can be fun, I mean, we have Snowbird here. They stay open. Sometimes they'll open on like July 4 on a big year, reopen, and it's fun and it's novel and it's cool to go do that. But what I'm talking about is kind of this time of the year, excuse me, where you can sort of get out and there's just a little bit of that creamy top where it's just kind of started to get a little bit soft on the top. It's heating up. And also, one thing I want to talk about is some stuff where, when you get there in the morning, especially this time of year, in the Rocky Mountains at least, you're getting that refreeze. So you're starting the morning off on some pretty scratchy, icy, if it's refreezing overnight. So it presents a couple of different kind of types of snow that I actually think is a really good time of year to focus on a couple different things. So I wanted to break down springtime and what you can do in the springtime on your telemark skis and break it down by resort, Backcountry, and even the terrain park. And just, what kind of, when I get to this time of year, what do I start thinking about? And how do I approach the mountain? How can I get the best out of this part of the year? And of course, if a powder day, just clarification, Utah is classic for, we get to March, 70-degree day, everyone goes mountain biking, hiking, golfing, whatever, and literally the next day it snows like 2 feet, and then we feel like we're back in it again. So, but this is more like that springtime vibe, and that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So the first thing is being in the resort. I'm going to kind of focus on that. I feel like the resort is more, a controlled environment. A lot of people are skiing in the resort. I oftentimes think that, I know I've said it on the podcast, but really, this is where Telemark is growing right now, is in the resort. People are, of course, there's people accessing the backcountry on Telemark equipment, but I think there's a lot of people that are learning Telemark, and for good reason, in a resort. You can get reps. I've talked about this early on in the podcast. You got a chairlift. You don't have to hike up to then practice a turn that you don't know. So I guess that's kind of my first point is spring. If you're listening to this podcast and for some reason you're an alpine skier, snowboarder, maybe you don't even ski. That'd be even really cool if you caught this podcast. You don't even ski. And you're like, what is this guy talking about? Telemark. Well, spring is a great time to start Telemark skiing for a multitude of reasons. Again, like I said, you start getting that kind of little softer spring conditions. I think for people that are proficient skiers and snowboarders, alpine skiers and snowboarders, there's this sort of FOMO thing going on in the middle of the year where you see Telemark and you're like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. I think I might want to try that sometime. And then lo and behold, what happens is there's just too many good days. It's just so good all the time. And you don't want to be the person that it's like, it's like a 1 or a 2 foot powder day. And you don't want to be that person that your friends are like, all right, we're going to shred. And you're like, actually, I rented Telemark skis for the day, man. And I'm going to try it all day. No, you're not going to do that because this is what happens. And I get it. I'm not judging here. I'm just saying it's highly unlikely that if you're proficient at one maneuver on the hill with your alpine skis or your snowboard, that you're going to ditch that on a good day, quote unquote, good day to go Telemark ski. So here comes spring. Spring's awesome. You pretty much, hopefully you've got your fill. You've ski bummed it up. You have spent every day on the hill on the best day, or maybe you're even a weekend warrior and you've got your powder day fill for the year. Guess what? It's a good time to Telemark ski. Conditions are easy to ski in, number one, once it's a little soft on top. And it's nice to be in the sun, and you're not going to, miss out on that fabulous day. And honestly, maybe you're even hiding from your friends that think you're going to go too slow, or all of your friends, all the homies are like, okay, yeah, we're all going to go Telemark ski. We're going to rent gear, or we're going to buy some cheap gear, and we're all going to go. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up. I mean, spring is just such a great time. If you've ever been on the fence about dropping a knee and learning to ski, this is it. March, late March, April, into May, I guess, if you've got skiing somewhere. Spring conditions are awesome time to do that, and I highly, highly recommend it. So for me personally, let's dive into the resort situation. For me, this is the time to work on technique. I think it's always good to be working on technique. Obviously, technique's important. I mean, it's the basis of what you're doing on the mountain, right? Good technique trumps all, in my opinion. And this is the time I like to work on technique. So, one of the things, getting out, focusing on, kind of doing things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. It's kind of what I was just saying about, like, maybe someone new to Telemark, doing something new when you're not afraid of missing out on something else. It's kind of the same thing with this technique stuff. You got through the whole season. Look, you're only going to be skiing probably a couple more days a year, or a couple more weeks, depending on where you're at on the ski bum totem pole, or whatever we want to call it. Like, it's the hierarchy of the hierarchy of how much you can go ski, but days, weeks, whatever. We definitely want you to kind of figure out, something new. Don't be afraid of missing out on stuff. So, working on some new techniques. I like to pull out the skinny skis as one of my things. Old vintage gear. This is when we do our smelly knee pad competition at the shop. We all go up and kind of compete with each other, and it's fun, and this is a great time to do it. So, vintage gear, it's a great time if you're a proficient Telemark skier to go get your ass kicked again and basically put on some old equipment that's going to be difficult for you. And, that's one way to do it. Now, if you're just on your regular equipment, maybe focus on something else. I've talked about skiing moguls many times on this podcast. Springtime is the time to do it. Why? Those moguls are nice and soft. Gives you an opportunity to really test out. One, the nice soft moguls give you kind of this sliding ability to kind of go in between stuff. And, no one likes to ski on ice per se, unless you're like a racer, but in moguls, you don't want icy hard moguls. I mean, if you're really trying to challenge yourself, okay, I get it. But I would say, powder moguls are fun, or like anytime you've got a little bit of ability to kind of move the snow between the moguls. But springtime, like I'm saying, I love springtime bumps. And so, when we're talking about different techniques, like I was saying, yeah, you could get on vintage gear, you could try out terrain parks, or, like a park ski or something like that. But moguls are a great way, like, hey, just find a sweet mogul line. And especially if you can find a good, what us old folks would say, a zipper line, like where it, like you look down it and you're like, okay, like it looks like a zipper. It's like a perfect zigzag, right, left, right, left, and you're just going to get in it and you're going to lock into it and you're just going to go. And I think springtime is a great time to do that because the consequences generally are a little bit lower. If you get knocked off your line, you crash, it's soft, it's fun, you're sliding around, it's springtime. And I think that's what it's all about, is trying something new because the conditions allow it. But I think bumps are a great way. Like I've talked about bumps being kind of a great opportunity to get in and basically have the ability to learn how to turn fast. And when I talk about a zipper line, tight moguls that are well made, they're not made like they were used to, honestly, the invention of a snowboard, I think, changed the dynamic, and fat skis as well, has changed the dynamic of bumps in a lot of ways. So the old zipper line I'm talking about, it's not necessarily always there on a lot of mountains. It depends where you go. And I think that's one of the beauties of different resorts, is moguls form by the way people ski and what kind of equipment they're on and steepness of pitch and all that. But the objective that I'm trying to get across here is, can you pick a really direct line down the fall line? Okay. And for those of you that might be a little more novice and you're like, what the hell is a fall line and zippers and all this stuff? Like if you stand at the top of the moguls and you can kind of see this little zigzag, And the fall line is, imagine rolling a ball down the hill. The fall line is where the ball is going to roll down to. So if you have kind of a direct fall line right in front of you and it's pretty obvious, it's down that little zigzag I'm talking about, the zipper line, going straight down the hill. Now, the thing about moguls that's great is just, can you get in and lock in and make quick turns? And that's why I always say moguls are a true test of agility, of mental, it's like a mental mixed with technique. And once you get locked in and you get a rhythm going, right turn, left turn, right turn, you're just knee drop, knee drop, knee drop, knee drop. It's quick and it's fast, but you also learn this technique of how do you dish off some of that speed on the bump, so you're not just, you're learning how to control speed in a different way. And you're locked into this line where when you turn is dictated by this zipper line I'm talking about. It's dictated by the moguls and the fall line. And that's why I think moguls are great. So I would encourage all of you, go find a really tight mogul line and let it rip. Let it get nice and soft, Maybe wait till it softens up a little bit. Sun starts hitting it, Put your sunglasses on with like a sweet headband from the 80s and, whatever you're into. But moguls, that's the way to go. I think that's a great way to get your technique kind of up to par. So, moguls, I talked a little bit about fall line, and I think this is another thing that's great to practice on spring conditions is steeps. Again, getting out of the comfort zone and getting on something that you're, not used to. It's funny, like back in the day, they used to have like steep camps or whatever. And I don't know if I've seen those anymore. I'm sure they exist, and there's probably a certain clientele that's super, interested in that. But like skiing the steeps, I think especially when we didn't have modern day skis, that was kind of a big thing. But springtime, again, I think is a great time to look at steeper terrain that maybe you're not as comfortable with. And again, it's not, hopefully I'm not talking about getting on steeps in an icy situation. I'm saying like get into it when it's a little bit more, kind of that corn cycle. You've got that little bit of creamy top on it. We've got such lingo in skiing. It's hilarious. But, there's that little bit of kind of that little bit of top of it's sort of refreezed and now it's softening up and you've got that little buttery top on it. That's the goods, right? But getting on those steep lines, getting in a couloir, getting on something that maybe you're not as comfortable with, in the early part of the season at the resort, and trying out techniques. Maybe you're practicing like a jump telemark turn, or maybe you're practicing wind to pole plant, or how to transition across like a really steep situation that you're not normally comfortable with. The thing with steep skiing and telemark that is very unique is that it adds a whole, when you're going from, and again, like I'm not saying no one ever goes to an alpine turn, to a Christiana turn, but it's to ski very technically when you're going telemark to telemark on a steep face. It requires a little bit of technique in the sense that let me back up. Of course, it requires technique, but you're almost a little more vulnerable, in my opinion. Like if you're going alpine turn to alpine turn on a steep situation, that's one thing. But if you're going telemark and then you're literally like releasing your edges and going into another telemark turn on a very steep exposed area, there's an element of risk there that's not there when you go alpine to alpine. And I think that's what again, it's just one of those things with Telemark. That adds a sense of difficulty that isn't there with other disciplines. I guess I could liken it to like toe side and heel side on a snowboard. Like if you're, it kind of reminds me of that in a sense. And I've always said like, Telemark's like two toe side turns, mixed together. But, you think on a snowboard, if you're toe side on a steep, you have to release that toe side edge to go heel side, and your back's facing down the slope, and I feel like Telemark in a way has kind of got some similarities, and it's not quite that dramatic where your back's facing down, but yeah, getting on some steeps, I think is another great thing you can look for this spring in your resort to practice. And I think it's a great way to improve your skiing, and just go slow. Try stuff and go slow. Focus on good technique always. Reps, good technique, that will win the game. And that's what Telemark is all about, is learning good technique over and over and over a long period of time. And that's where the greatness comes, is having that technique in the pocket for when the days are deep, and then you go out next year and you're skiing steep stuff on a powder day, and everything's clicking because you practiced it. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get at with the spring, is just take a little extra time, go do some stuff that you're not used to. And I think it's incredibly beneficial for every Telemark skier out there. So the last one I was kind of thinking about this is, I keep talking about this softer snow that you're going to get in the spring and whatnot. But in the early spring, anybody who knows that goes up to the mountain early when it's still freezing at night, and that's where you got to watch your temperatures, right? Because, is it freezing at the mountain? Like in Salt Lake City, we live in a valley, and you've got all these resorts up in the mountains that are thousands and thousands of feet higher. So these mountain aspects are, they're freezing when maybe the valley's not. So you got to pay attention to that. But one thing that kind of came to mind as I was sort of writing these notes down for this podcast is, I'm talking about doing all this stuff on the soft stuff. I also think this is a good time maybe to get up early morning and work on some carving. And maybe you've got a pair of skis that, it's kind of like, let me back up. Maybe you've got a pair of skis that are more set up for carving, or maybe again, getting a different setup to get on something that's a little firmer, icier, and, practicing some technique there. I'm someone who, I've got a busy schedule. I feel like sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get to the mountain exactly when I want to. So I'm always looking for ways to like increase difficulty or get in a workout while I'm skiing or whatever. That's just how I roll. So I'm always looking at stuff like this, and I've even got a pair of race skis that are mounted up that would be perfect for this scenario where you're like, okay, I can only make it up in the morning. It's not really going to be a great day. And yeah, you could be a snow snob, or you could go skiing and have fun and actually learn something different. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting at. So I think carving in the morning when it's still firm outside, and if you've got a full day of skiing, you can move into some of this other stuff. But again, it's taking advantage of the opportunity and the snow conditions in the spring that I think really are going to even make your next season even more enjoyable. Because again, you're stacking knowledge, right? You're stacking experience. And Telemark is like, it's all about that. It's just learning technique after technique and repetition after repetition. And you just get better and better. And that's where Telemark really gets great. It gets better as you go longer doing it. You just get better at it. And then you're able to produce those techniques on the days that you want to. So that's kind of what I got for the resort section. I think those are some great things. Quick recap, focus on working on techniques, whether it's getting some vintage gear, getting into those soft bumps and just smashing zipper lines, getting on some steeps and trying something, really trying to go telemark to telemark and ski steeps in a different way, jump turns, all these things. And then finally, if it's firm outside, work on your carving, get some equipment, that's maybe a little bit better for carving, or your everyday driver skis. If you're just skiing one set of skis, that's cool too. Get better at whatever the conditions may be. And springtime offers so many different things in the resort. And again, you got a lift. You have a lift. You have different aspects you can access all throughout the morning, the afternoon. You can find something that's super fun and enjoyable. And that's what it's all about. So kind of this last section, I'm talking about resort. Obviously, one of the places that we all like, not all of us, but many of us like to go skiing in the backcountry. And springtime, that is a great time to learn how to backcountry ski. And, I always remember Craig Dostie talking to me about, springtime is a great time for beginner telemark or beginner backcountry skiers, I should say. And it's a great time to just go outside and get hiking. And, for the more advanced backcountry telemark skier, maybe you have some big objectives that you're looking to get. And when I say big objectives, I'm talking like long tours in, technical lines. I mean, some stuff you don't normally ski midwinter. It's just too dangerous, avalanche conditions and whatnot. And springtime is obviously, the snow starts to compact. We start getting what's called that corn cycle. We kind of talked about that little bit of buttery top on it. And if you time it just right, it's amazing. Springtime in the backcountry also has some of its own difficulties too, like the snow getting heated up too quickly, and there's avalanche dangers with that. So, I encourage you, make sure, don't just wing it and go out in the backcountry. I'm never saying that, but I'm saying find somebody that can take you, mentor you, take some classes, get certified in some avalanche safety courses. But what I am trying to get at is just the basics of thinking about backcountry skiing in the spring. Is there's some amazing stuff that can be done in the spring that, again, I think skiing, a lot of people focus very heavily on powder days, and maybe sometimes we lose sight of a lot of other types of snow conditions that are equally, in my opinion, fun to do. And I just don't think there's any, I was just about to say, I don't think there's any room for snow snobbery, but I guess what I think inside of my heart is like, why be snobby about the snow? Because you're improving on being a good, well-rounded telemark skier. And that's, for me, that's what it's all about. It's not about I think it goes back to that classic question. People are like, where's your favorite place to go skiing? And I'm like, I don't know, wherever the snow's good. I mean, that's literally what I answer every time. Wherever the snow's good. But to me, that doesn't mean it has to be a powder day. I mean, it could be, again, spring conditions in Italy, skiing with my friends and eating great food at some random mid-mountain restaurant. I mean, you know what I mean? The experience always is the most important thing to me. And I think that's what it's all about. So anyways, I digress. Backcountry skiing in the spring is awesome. And it's a great opportunity to get out with your friends and walk around, learn how to move through the mountains. And again, if you're with someone who's experienced or you're experienced yourself, this is a good time to kind of poke around and get to know things. You might not be on a spring skin track. You might not be dealing with, breaking trail, for instance, on a really deep snowpack or some of that type of stuff. It's also a really good time to practice, drills. Maybe you're new, you just got a beacon, you're not really sure how to use it. And maybe you go out with an experienced person and say, hey, can we do some beacon drills, And I think springtime is good for that. I guess as I'm talking resort and backcountry, one of the things I keep going back to is it's just a good time to kind of like wrap it all up, get squared away for the year. Look at all the cool things you learned. Look at all the cool things you experienced on your Telemark skis with your backcountry equipment, and kind of get squared away, because you're going to pack a lot of this stuff up and you're not going to touch it till October or November in the fall. And this is just kind of a good time to sort of pack it all together and, bundle it up and say, hey, here's where I'm ending, and leave it in a good spot. So I think wherever you're skiing, I think this is a great time of year to do that. And that's kind of all I got for backcountry skiing. I mean, I feel like there's pretty wide array of the types of areas that you can go to, but that's what I think of. I think, corn skiing, I think long objectives, maybe. I think, conditions are better for maybe some bigger technical lines for some people, or it might just be, like here we have a bunch of like short stuff that you can hit after the resort's closed, because you just want to get out and get a walk in with the dog, and that's what's important. You're getting out, you're moving around, and you're finding a nice bow to put on top of the whole season. So the last thing I was kind of thinking of is, again, the common theme through this is trying new things you may not do in the middle of the winter because you don't want to waste your time, or time's limited or whatnot, is terrain park. And honestly, the first thing when I think about this is jumping. Springtime is awesome time to jump because, again, you have that soft little slushy top, and if you're not used to jumping, crashes can be, generally speaking, again, I'm like hesitating. I'm like, don't do stuff and then get hurt. All right. But, what I want to express is this is a good time because there's kind of some lower consequences on some of this stuff. So jumping is the first thing that kind of sticks out in my mind. Is if you have some small terrain park jumps, maybe you don't jump. You've never jumped. And, they've got like, a lot of times resorts will have kind of like kiddie parks or whatever. So if you're an old dude like me and you want to do like a little jump, this is a good time to learn how to jump. Like I've said before, I think Telemark skiers should all know how to catch a little air. Why not? I mean, Telemark skiers were catching air in the beginning. So, and I think Sondre Norheim, like I've said, I mean, the guy was like in his 40s. He's like jumping off, houses and stuff, as the folklore goes. But so that's what I'm saying. I'm talking to everyone out here, but I'm saying like don't let age be a factor. Be safe. But the terrain park can be kind of a fun area to get in. Now, if you're an experienced person that's jumping, I think this is a great, if you're experienced, you're probably jumping all year, and springtime is a good time to kind of dial in those last tricks of the year. Maybe you've been working on, and you've got some rotations you're working on, and you just didn't really want to do them, or maybe the opportunity didn't present itself to go do it. I think the terrain park's a great opportunity in the spring to kind of cut loose a little bit and just get out and have a little session with the friends. And again, kind of wrap up the season where you want to begin the next year, and kind of get that progress out. I just wanted to mention that because I always think that's a fun part of the mountain. And maybe it's kind of overlooked because I feel like people just think terrain park, they think young people. And, maybe even on this note is like, maybe you want to just catch some air. When I say catch air, I'm literally saying get some air under your skis. Like it could be an inch. It could be like 2 inches. Maybe you're cruising down the cat track and there's some little side hit, right? And you're a hit, like a little jump. If you don't know that lingo, there's like a little side hit and you're just like, hey, I'm going to hit that. And you're learning speed. You're learning how to approach. You're learning how to pop off this little lip. You're learning how to catch air. You're learning how to land. I mean, put 3 to 6 inches under your skis. You're going to be stoked. If you don't jump, I mean, come on. That's what this is all about. And if you're some youngster that's like, that doesn't sound very rad. That's what I'm saying. Like, go do your thing. And I'm just saying, like, people in general, like, catch some air, have fun. It's springtime, and that's what it's all about. So that kind of wraps it all up, right? Like, for me, that's spring. These are, and I hope these are just some ideas. I'm just trying to get your brain flowing. It's Monday, hopefully you're listening to this and you're thinking, hey, I got a day or 2 left of skiing. I got a week, whatever. Maybe you're even going to South America and, you're getting ready to go do some shredding, and I just kind of wanted to get you thinking about stuff. If you're a resort skier, hey, here's a couple things maybe you could think to do. Even if it's not one of these things, like hopefully you're thinking, hey, yeah, okay, maybe I can do something different. These are some things I kind of want to work on. And you're not just going and, not skiing, or you're just doing the same thing. So that was kind of the point of today's podcast is just to give you some ideas, things to do in the resort, in the backcountry, maybe the terrain park. And of course, springtime, if maybe you don't want to do any of this stuff I said and you're just like, Madsen, you suck. Like, none of those ideas are good. I don't want to do anything else. I think we can all agree that one thing we can do in the spring that we can all work on is our après-ski game. Okay. Après-ski, for those, again, I always like to give definitions because maybe there's someone here and I want to make sure they know what we're talking about. After ski, après-ski, go find some telemarketers to tailgate with. You know what I'm saying? Like, figure out the hibachi grill in the parking lot. Like, throw some brats on there and like invite some people over, hand them a beer, get to know people. You don't even have to go skiing and you can enjoy some tailgating. So après-ski in spring, nothing better. And if you're really going to get down and dirty on this thing, is party in your ski boots all the way in to the late evening. My buddy Andreas was over in, I don't know where, he was in Italy, and I was watching his Instagram the other day. And look, if you live in Europe, I just want to say, I commend all of you Europeans by default, all Europeans. I'm not even saying like a country. I'm just saying, like, I've seen more people party in their ski boots, après-ski, like till like really late in the evening, than anywhere I've ever been. You guys are legit. That's it. I don't know what to say. Because over here, like, we might be drinking beers or something for a little bit in our booths, but people are like putting Crocs on or flip flops or shoes or boots or what. I don't know. There's something about the way the Euros do it. Much respect. So that just kind of got me thinking about springtime and seeing some good après ski boot dance parties. So, well, that's all I got for you today. Happy Monday, my fellow protectors of the turn. I love you guys so much. It's crazy to think that we're wrapping up our 7th year here at the shop. It's been an amazing adventure. We've got lots to talk about. Next week, I'm going to be wrapping up the season with our Freeheel Life Shop manager, Miles Schaefer, and our general manager, Telly Tay Johnson. I'm just going to call him that. And we're going to be debriefing on the year, what went good, fun stories, and just kind of breaking it down and just kind of doing a little recap before we head into that little break I was talking about. I will obviously continue to be doing the podcast, and I have some awesome guests. I feel like I keep saying that, and I've just been trying to kind of get everybody lined up. But honestly, I feel like I'll have a little more time to kind of like book a lot of these guests coming up, and I cannot wait. There's a bunch of very interesting people and some good history stuff in kind of in the pipeline of sorts. I'll give you a clue for one of them. Super Loop. That's all I'm gonna say. There's your little message. If you know, you know. And we'll get down and talk to some Telemark skiers. So until then, we've got this week left. Like I said, we're open tomorrow, Tuesday, noon until 7. Same thing all the way through Friday. Saturday is the last day of the shop being open, 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. 7th year, going into the books. Hit us up, customer service at freeheellife.com if you need anything. Podcast at freeheellife.com if you want to be part of a mailbag episode, or you've got comments, or you think the podcast sucks and we're doing it all wrong. I don't care. Just hit me up. Let me know what's going on. Much love and appreciation as we wrap this year up. And like I said, I'm going to keep going and going and going. It's crazy that we're over 120 episodes into this thing. And I couldn't do it if it wasn't for you all out there listening. So until next week, spread Telemark always. Peace out.